Well, we are live on LSR Live this Wednesday in July. I'm so happy to have a returning guest, Louis Bertus, which you guys have learned so much from this brother on diabetes and on diet and on a number of things. Today, we're talking kidneys, how to protect your kidneys, vital organs, literally. And what I mean by that, of course, is God gave us each of these organs to function in their proper sphere, for us to learn how to care for the bodies we've been given by God. And they really belong to God, don't they? He owns us by both creation and redemption. So we've got Louis Bertus to talk about how to have healthy kidneys. Let me get a bio, Lawrence. Let me tell folks about Louis. I know most of you guys know him, but long before he became a physician's assistant in 2017, Louis Bertus knew his true calling, empowering people to reclaim their health through the power of your lifestyle choices, listener. As he cared for hundreds of patients battling the devastating complications of diabetes, he realized a hard truth. Medications alone weren't enough. His own wife was proof. She endured 8 long years of diabetes, following conventional advice without seeing any real improvement. But Louis refused to accept that fate. Determined to find a better way, he immersed himself in evidence-based research on diabetes reversal. What happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. And now that we've said that in the bio, oh, there it is. I was going to ask him to tell it, but he tells us the rest right here. In just 6 weeks, his wife was completely off all medications. That life-changing experience ignited a lifelong mission to help anyone suffering from type 2 diabetes or prediabetes and help us break free from the disease and experience the energy, vitality, and longevity that you deserve, listener. Even those with type 1 diabetes can learn to lower their insulin needs and live life to the fullest. Man, that's an awesome story, Louis. Thank you for being
Yes.
with us again. I hope you heard that story, folks. If you enjoy today's interview on kidneys, go back in the live tab in the streams that we've done in the past. When was the last time you were with us, Louis? I feel like it's been about 4 months,
Too
maybe.
long. Too long. A few
It's
months.
been
Yeah.
too long. How have you
Yeah.
been?
Yeah. Too long. It's been good, man. It's been good. As always, I love your energy. It
Oh,
almost
God is
matches
good.
mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you the driver's seat this time.
Uh-huh.
I want you to walk us through kidneys. I'll jump in with questions here and there, but first off, I want to just ask you. Most people probably aren't thinking about their kidneys. People are thinking about their weight. They're thinking about their
Mhm.
skin. They're thinking maybe about their blood sugar if they are having issues with that, or,
Mhm.
or when symptoms arise. But why would you say the general listener ought to tune into and
Mhm.
consider a conversation about kidney health?
Yeah. That's the best question to start with because it's exactly what I was thinking like when I was asked to do this. Um, because so many of us really don't pay enough attention to this superhero in our body. It's so easy to give a lot of attention to diabetes because um, so many people have it or should know they have it. There's so much attention to high blood pressure, your cholesterol, even your liver gets a fair amount of attention. But the kidney seems like a silent player in the background. But it's really unfortunate because the kidney does so many things. So one thing I hope will happen from people watching this program is that they have a newfound respect for their kidneys, a newfound appreciation because of all the organs in the body, the kidneys is one of the most important. And we're going to talk about the functions of the kidney and the fact that so many of us have diseased kidneys and don't know. It's shocking how much and how many don't know. And really, ultimately, the theme of all our conversations, the fact that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, marvelous are his works, right? And we know that fully well. When you look at the amazing things the body can do and how it compensates for the damage we put it through, you just have to stand in awe of God, right? And I think if there's two organs that can really highlight the power of God and the glory of His creation, it's the kidneys. Yep, for sure.
I wonder if he's communicating something to us by giving us two of them, and not only to learn how to share if we need to, but two of them. They're important. You
Hmm.
alluded to the fact that a lot of people actually do have unhealthy kidneys, a state of disease in
Yes.
the kidneys. What are the numbers, estimated numbers on population scale kidney malfunctions?
So it's definitely a problem. worldwide, especially here, but especially here in America. But worldwide, it's a huge problem. 850 million people are estimated, according to latest statistics, to have chronic kidney disease. Right, so you're looking at more than 10% of the population,
850
million
million.
worldwide. Right.
Yeah,
If
that's
you're looking
10%.
at if you're looking at United States alone, where I practice, we're seeing about 37 million. So that's about 1 in 7 people having chronic kidney disease. 1 in 7, right? So another huge percentage. Maybe I think that equates to about 14%. And what's more shocking, or should be more shocking than that, is that 90% of people who have chronic kidney disease don't know they have it. There's several reasons for that. So it's a huge problem because, again, we're going to go into all the things that kidneys does, but it's just shocking to me that 90% of people, and this is worldwide and here in the United States, have chronic kidney disease and have never been told. And one of the reasons that is because this silent hero, this silent superhero, doesn't cry out when it's in trouble until the last stages of its demise, so to speak, right? So the kidney can keep up with a lot of damage, and I think we'll understand why when we talk about the biology of the kidney and how it works. Amazing organ, just simply amazing. But it's just really sad that so many of us can have diseased kidneys and not know.
I think I'm going to give a little spoiler to what I think you might be saying. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get to the fact that this may be largely lifestyle related. Because when I heard you laying out those numbers, I heard that it's
Mm-hmm.
worse in the United States than the global
Yeah.
population. Is this another? I mean, you
Yep.
don't have to
Yep.
answer that right now. I mean, I guess just first,
Yeah.
we're all wondering, okay, what are the risk factors for me? If the majority of people who have kidney disease don't know it and 1 in 10 people have it, I mean, I really want to
Mhm.
tune in. Tell me about the risk
Yeah.
factors. Tell our listeners about that.
For sure, for sure. So, and when you talk about the risk factors, you can see why it is a problem here in the United States, but also globally, because these risk factors exist in all populations, especially in advanced countries. So, and before I even go to that, I want to highlight why so many people don't know they have it. It's because many doctors, and for a long time, even myself, assume that things happen with old age. So when you see someone's kidney function declining or lower than normal ideal, you just say, well, they're older, right? So we don't really say anything. So it's not something that's not tested. We frequently test it, but a lot of us doctors chalk it up to old age when you see a compromised kidney. So one of the risk factors is age, right? So at 65 and up, that's when you're going to have the highest risk of having chronic kidney disease. But there are modifiable risk factors, and we're going to go into detail on all of them. But the biggest one would be diabetes. So second to diabetes would be high blood pressure. Is another big risk factor that comes along with causing diabetes. Obesity. Another one is smoking. You could probably throw in alcohol in there. That's another risk factor for diseased kidneys. Then there's the things that you can't control, like we said, your age or age 65, ethnicity. Those who are black and brown, so a black and Hispanic, have higher rates of diabetes. I'm sorry, of kidney disease. Um, I'm so used to talking about diabetes. I always want to plug it in, but
See,
so high. Yeah. What else is there? Of course, then genetics, so family history. So those who have a family history of chronic kidney disease are at higher risk of developing chronic kidney disease sometime in life.
okay. Now, what I really want to hone in on is those lifestyle factors because if
Hmm.
you're over 65 and you've not been pummeling and assaulting your kidney with, harms that you were not even necessarily aware of, how can younger people get to that age and still have healthy kidneys? Or are we all doomed to have messed up kidneys when we're 70?
No.
You've laid out the risk factors, but I really can't wait for the punchline, really on all
Yeah.
right, doc,
Yeah.
what are doctor's orders here? But can you go
Yeah.
first, just like what are the kidneys? I mean, everybody realizes where they are and they have a little something to do
Yeah.
with this or that, but give us kind of a 101 kidney function course if you could in a truncated
Sure.
form.
For sure. So, answering both questions, yes, we can definitely modify our risks because even though it's more prevalent as we get older, it does not like something that happens all at once, all of a sudden, right? It's because of not just family history or genetics, but the accumulation of damage over time, right? The things that happen, things that we expose our kidneys to over time. We're gonna definitely talk about what we can do and be very practical with it. But let's pause and talk about the function. I think we need to really put the light on the kidneys, both of them, and what they do, because most of us think, oh yeah, the kidneys, yeah, I know what it does. It just helps us pass urine, right? It helps us to eliminate excess fluid, but it's so much more than that. Kidneys do so much more than that. So there, let's go through the functions. So the main function, of course, is filtration. That's one we're really aware of. The kidneys are like 10,000 times more complex than the most complex filtration system mankind has ever created. Um, so here's some facts. So the kidneys is responsible. Our kidneys are responsible for filtering 180 liters of fluid a day. Right, that's almost a bathtub worth of fluid. That's about almost 40 times the circulation, the blood supply that our heart circulates through our body every day. Every day. That's a lot of work, right? The filtration system is composed of 1 million what's called nephron units, 1 million nephron units per kidney. Okay. And you can kind of get an idea of why it's able to keep up with so much damage. I mean, with 1 million filtration units per kidney to process all that fluid. Um, Inside those, or the gatekeeper of those units, each unit is called a glomeruli. It's almost like a filtration, coffee filter, or better yet said, I've heard it said called a bouncer. That is super intelligent. This bouncer can differentiate molecules down to the atom, right? It's so experienced that it could look at two identical twins and know the difference automatically. So the glomeruli is one of the first places where damage occurs in kidney disease, and you can see all this ensuing effects when it does get damaged. But it's amazing to see how sophisticated, how detailed this filtration system is, and of course, it's super important as far as looking at the functions of the kidneys down the line and understanding its importance. You'll see why some of the symptoms happen and what are the side effects of its damage. The other function I want to highlight on the kidneys is blood pressure. So that's one function that a lot of people aren't familiar with. That the kidneys are responsible for regulating our blood pressure, and how it does is pretty amazing. So the kidneys create an enzyme called renin, and this enzyme activates another enzyme called angiotensin into angiotensin 1. And this is a powerful hormone. This hormone controls our blood pressure in two ways. So when renin activates and leads to the creation of this hormone, it causes our blood vessels to contract, right? And I'm getting ahead. The way it does this is by sensing when your blood pressure is dropping. So it's like a thermostat system. When your blood pressure is dropping, renin stimulates the production of angiotensin. The blood vessels contract. That's step one. And step two, aldosterone is also stimulated to be produced by the adrenal glands in our kidneys for the retention of water and salt. So now your blood pressure rises, right? This is what keeps our blood pressures from dropping too low, right? And it's very important, right? Whenever we sense dehydration, whenever we're changing positions, getting up from sitting to standing, we would pass out if our blood pressure weren't able to constrict and elevate at times when there was important. So the kidneys are absolutely important for the regulation of blood pressure. So that's one thing that a lot of people don't know, right? Next function I want to highlight for the kidneys is its ability to activate vitamin D. So vitamin D comes from two forms, mainly the sunlight exposure and supplement form. But regardless of where you get vitamin D, if you don't have healthy kidneys, that vitamin D can't be activated. So essentially, you only get the inactive form, and without a healthy kidney, you can't activate enough vitamin D, which of course leads down the line to more complications, because vitamin D we know is important for immune system health. Vitamin D is important for bone health in that it helps us digest calcium coming to the digestive tract. So now we're calcium depleted, right? Another thing that's really important for the kidneys, I hope you're beginning to see how important these are. But another thing that's important is red blood cell production, right? So anyone struggling with anemia or feeling fatigue or low energy, It may be because your kidneys are not producing another powerful hormone called EPO or erythropoietin. EPO is important for sending a signal to the bones to produce red blood cells, right? And if that doesn't happen because the kidney's function is compromised, now you're anemic, right? Now you're feeling low in energy. Now you're feeling tired and fatigued, right? And then we have acid balance. Acid balance is one of the crucial components of the kidney's function to keep from damaged bones, damaged muscle, weakened heart. And then electrolyte balance. So electrolyte balance is important because without electrolyte balance, we have metabolic dysfunctions, calcium deposits in our heart, leading to heart attack and heart disease, and muscle cramps, weakness. So these are all the functions. I'm hoping I hit all of them of the kidneys. And you can imagine when the kidneys are declining in their function, all these functions or responsibilities are compromised.
Don't know as much as you do about the various organ systems, but you just convinced me this is like second to my cardiovascular health. This is massive. And man,
It's
you
big.
blew me
It's
away,
big.
Lewis, with 180 times the circulation as blood circulation does in a day, 10,000 times
Yeah.
more filtration than our most complex human filters. That's
Yep.
incredible.
Yep.
And a
Mm-hmm.
million of those, what I forgot. But what I want to know now is like, should I be getting tests to
Mm-hmm.
see if my kidney function is as it should be for somebody my age. Who in
Mm-hmm.
our audience might be a good candidate for that? What tests are available to test your kidney function?
Mm-hmm. I think it's always a good idea to get it done, regardless of your age or if you have any comorbidities. But there are definitely people who have higher risk should be checking it on a regular basis, right? But the test is very simple, and that's what's crazy to me is like, man, it's not like a complicated test to know whether or not you have chronic kidney disease. Unfortunately, I kind of put the burden on us physicians. We need to do better in informing people, but now we're creating a informed public, right, Scott? So with this, anyone watching this video, you now are informed. Spread this information with other people so they can be informed and be on top of the health. So the tests are simple. The first test is EGFR, or estimated glomerular filtration rate, right? So this essentially tests how much function or high function your kidneys are performing. And there's stages to it. So the ideal number is 90% to 100, right? Anyone at 90% to 100 has normal, healthy kidneys, right? And then there's anyone below 90, but above 60. I'm sorry, above 80. As long as you're within that range, you're also considered um, normal only if you're not spilling protein, right? So you could actually consider the first two stages. There's five. The first two stages of chronic kidney disease to be considered. um, 1 and 2 with protein leaking means you have a problem, right? Though mild, you do have chronic kidney disease. So that's why it becomes important to test also what's called the urine albumin creatinine ratio. This is a test to see if your kidneys are showing signs of damage. All right. So it's something that can be tested obviously with urine. And if you're spilling protein, regardless if you're in 90% or 80% of kidney function, then you're considered having kidney disease. Now, I should also add to that. There are certain things that can injure your kidneys and just be, let's say, acute damage, not chronic. So what's most important is the trend, right? Is let's say you went to the doctor and a lot of people say, hey, my doctor told me I had protein in my urine. I must have, well, according to Lewis, I have chronic kidney disease. No, what your doctor's going to do is repeat the test, right? If you if you frequently are spilling, so it's a frequency issue. If you're frequently spilling protein into your urine, then you have chronic kidney disease, right? So it's more frequency. So that's stage 1 and 2. Stage 3, that's when you're looking at mild to moderate disease, right? And regardless of your presence of protein, you're considered to have chronic kidney disease. Okay. So the numbers from stage 3 are basically from anyone that has kidney function from 60 to 30. All right. From 60 to 30. So stage 1 80, 90 to 100. Stage 2, 60 to 80. Stage 3 is anyone from 30 to 60. And they actually split stage 3 into 3 parts. So you have anyone from 45 to 60 is considered stage 3A, right? So mild to moderate. Anyone from anyone at the level of 30 to 44 is considered moderate to severe, right? At this stage, you could still turn things around, right? It's when you get to stages 4 and 5, it's still possible, right? Because again, I don't know if I said this, you can have more than 50% destruction of your kidneys and still not feel anything, right? Some people have down to 30% function of the kidney, and there's no signs of damage, right? That's because we are fearfully, wonderfully made. The kidneys can keep up for a long time. But when you start getting to stage 4 and 5, that's when you're more likely to see symptoms, right? Anyone below 30 is considered severe, right? That's when you really want to be on the radar and checking your kidney function, if not every 6 months or every year, right? If it's because what you want to do, and that it actually sometimes is every 3 months, because what you want to do is see, is it steadily declining? Is it declining like this, or is it declining like, slower, right? Because you want to slow the progression, at best halt it, and really at best reverse it. Okay. Once you start getting to 15 or lower in your kidney function, now we're talking dialysis. Normally, at that point, you're going to be under the care of a nephrologist, right? That is if we know, that is if we're not the 90% that don't know, right? If we're that 10% that are knowledgeable that we have kidney disease, then we're seeing a nephrologist when you get down to 15%. And at 15%, or I should say close to 15%, you're being considered to start on dialysis. So I know those numbers are a little complicated. I could always send. Well, actually, it's really easy to look up. Just look up kidney function numbers by GFR, right? But I do want to highlight that the GFR is just one test. There's also the urine albumin test, the albumin to creatinine ratio, right? That number is really important, and it's really important to have both tests. So ask your doctor for a GFR and a urine albumin creatinine. You want to do both because the urine albumin and creatinine could actually indicate kidney disease 5 to 10 years before your kidney function starts to decline. So I kind of equate it to, going back to diabetes, testing your insulin levels instead of your A1C. So your A1C test tells you you're diabetic. Your insulin levels tell you you're on your way to diabetes, right? You're on your way to prediabetes. Your albumin creatinine can tell you 5 to 10 years before your kidneys functions declining, right? That you have a problem. So it's important to do both. And the number for that is
His
30
his
milligrams per gram. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to slide your diabetes help in because there are so many people are struggling with that. Diabetes 180.
Yeah.
What's the URL, by the way, for people to learn about diabetes from you and
Oh,
get your
really
help
easy.
on
Just my
that?
name. That's my name, lewisbertus.com. That's it.
Right.
I try to keep it
First
simple.
time.
Yeah. So if you want to get help
That's
from
great.
PA Bertus, that's that simple. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I recommend you guys get his diabetes advice because I think what you're about to tell us about kidneys might be some overlap with what you teach about diabetes. What is it that harms, damages kidneys that accelerates the risk and the decline into our older
Mm-hmm.
ages? Tell us what damages kidneys.
Great question. So, like we said, there's a reason why we see it when we're in old age. I think personally because our kidneys can keep up so much. It can keep up for a long time. But the number. So let's go through, I guess, in order, right? What is the most common cause of damage that leads to chronic kidney disease? Number one, by and far, is diabetes. 1 in 3 diabetics have chronic kidney disease. Now, think about that. 1 in 3 people have diabetes, and 90% of them don't even know they have chronic kidney disease. Sorry, 1 in 3 people who have diabetes have chronic kidney disease. 90% of them don't know. So if you're diabetic, absolutely get tested. You should have got tested yesterday. You should have got tested last year. And don't just accept that the doctor says your kidneys are normal, your kidneys are good. Ask them for the numbers, right? Check them with your normal, because maybe your normal is different than the doctor's normal. Okay, I'm just gonna say it, right? So ask them, what is my GFR? What is my urine albumin creatinine ratio? Right? If it's above 30 in urine creatinine ratio, when we have chronic kidney disease. even if your kidney function is normal. If your kidney function is below 60, you're mild to, you at this point you're looking at moderate to severe kidney disease, and we need to start doing something to change it. So diabetes absolutely is number one risk factor. If you think about it this way, the sugar that is flowing through your blood has to end up somewhere, and when it ends up where it ends up, the end point or exit point is your kidneys. So you can imagine all that sugar, right, that your body was not able to absorb into cells ends up in your kidneys, and it becomes like sandpaper to those poor nephron units, right? Sandpaper specifically in the glomeruli, the bouncer unit, right? The gatekeeper section of each nephron. It's like putting sand through that filter. And so over time it scars up and becomes leaky, becomes damaged. Proteins are now leaking into the urine. Toxins that are supposed to be filtered out are kept in. Think of a colander that's now kind of blocked and clogged, so that things that are supposed to be filtered out are stuck in the body. Um, and yeah, so diabetes is number one. 44%, according to the latest studies, 44% of people who have chronic or end stage renal disease are diabetic. All right. The vast majority of people, when you go to a dialysis clinic, are diabetic. What are the second highest number of people or condition morbidity that is associated with end stage renal disease? High blood pressure. So high blood pressure is number two. And it just makes sense, because if you think about high blood pressure, all that fluid, right, is going to the kidneys. What's driving it there? Your blood pressure, right? That's how blood flows throughout the body. As pressure builds up, think of your filtration system as like a garden hose. It likes a gentle flow. But if you have high blood pressure, you just turned on a fire hose and directed it towards the filter. Okay. Eventually, what's going to happen over time, this damage is going to accumulate and build up, leading to scarring, of course, and thickening of that filtration unit, and chronic kidney disease. So diabetes, number one, high blood pressure, number two. We talked about other risk factors, of course, obesity. For the same idea, people who are overweight or obese usually have high blood pressure. But also, if you think about it on a more like physiological reason, there's more pressure when you're carrying a lot of weight. So just a small, and for some, it doesn't take a lot of weight loss, maybe 5 to 10 pounds, and you can release a lot of pressure off your kidneys. So obesity is huge. We talked about smoking already. Smoking for obvious reasons, because smoking damages blood flow to the kidneys. So if you're diabetic, you want to be on top of your blood sugar levels. If you have high blood pressure, you want to try to reverse that. The great thing is, what we're going to go into as far as lifestyle changes, helps both diabetes, high blood pressure, and obesity. So you can knock all those out, right? Smoking, of course, you want to definitely stop smoking. So I think I highlighted 7 risk factors for diabetes, things that cause and damage the kidneys. 4 of them are very well controlled, or it can be controlled by you. We can't help our ethnicity. I can't help that I'm black, and black people have 4 times the rates of kidney disease than compared to whites. Latinos have 2 times as much. And I know a lot of people. I mean, this definitely preserves some words. So like, so why is that? I don't know, Scott. You ever wondered why? Why is it that blacks and Hispanics have
Was going to
higher kidney
ask
disease?
you,
Yeah.
is there an increased risk due to genetic factors, racial genetic factors, or
Mhm.
is there a lack of access issue in certain communities, lack of access to higher quality nutrition? Like, are these rates mirrored in the diabetes and the heart disease and other lifestyle diseases, or is there
Mhm.
something unique about the kidneys that especially leaves people of color more vulnerable?
Yes, all of the above.
All of the
but
above.
uh,
Okay. Okay.
but really, yeah, yes, there's a genetic component, of course. There's because it can run in families, but by and far the biggest component is the access to healthcare, lower socioeconomic status that comes with being a minority, unfortunately, in the United States.
Do you
So,
find
uh,
higher rates of kidney disease also in like rural Appalachia where lower income whites reside, or is there a
absolutely,
unique
absolutely,
racial risk factor? Okay.
yeah. So when we're doing population studies, we're looking at all populations, right? And we're
Yep.
comparing. So when you say 4 times compared to Caucasians, right, we're comparing one group to another. But unfortunately, there still exists in America a lot of disparities among racial
Yeah.
groups, and it's really sad. But so even though there may be a genetic component, that by and far can be bypassed if we decide to change our lifestyle. Genetics, yeah, it may load the gun, but as I always say, lifestyle pulls the trigger. Perfect example of this is the Pima Indians. So this is an example, plugging in diabetes again, but uh, Pima Indians have the highest rates of diabetes globally, right? They're a native tribe that mainly resides in Arizona, and their rates of diabetes are somewhere like, if those who are 35 and up have like 50% rates of diabetes, like 50% of people over 35 are diabetic, Pima Indian population, right? So you're gonna say, well, that's great, that must be genetic, right? But however, if you look at that same people group of the same genetic profile across the border in Mexico, they have almost diabetes almost doesn't exist. So the same genetics, you just change, you just pick them up from here, move them here, and all of a sudden diabetes rates are gone. So to me, it just highlights the fact that genetics are not even half the story. They're a small part of the story. The biggest part is what we expose ourselves to. And I have to throw this in too. I'll let you say this, but like, do you realize that according to studies, 8% of Black people don't have a grocery store in their neighborhood? So they talk about food deserts, right? And compared to whites, where I think the run number is about a little over 30% are have a grocery store in there. Now you highlight the fact that, okay, there's no grocery store. A lot of people in lower socioeconomic status don't rely on public transportation, don't have cars, so it's a big hassle to have to go out of town to the grocery store. Where are they going to shop? They're going to shop at the corner store, the fast food store, all the convenient stores around them. Which, what are they selling? Junk, right? We call it food deserts. I like the term that some people call it food apartheid. It's unfortunately because of a lot of the racial inequality and the lack of investment in these communities, and it's sad. And I think we need to voice more concern over it, and see how we can come up with a solution to change that. But eventually, we have to have self accountability. Though, knowledge can break the many curses. Knowledge is power, right? And so I hope that people can take the knowledge and not stop blaming the genetics and say, what can I do to change my outcomes? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you brought a really good balanced perspective in that there are, some social obligations that we owe to our fellow man. And then
Yeah.
also as
Yeah.
an individual, you hear this and to say, I'm not gonna accept victimhood as my destiny. But what can I do? What changes can I make? And I know you're going to get into lifestyle changes, and all we can do
Yeah.
is our best. And God
Yeah.
honors that and will bless that if we are doing
Absolutely.
our best. Not everybody can do whatever somebody else down the road can do, and getting everything organic, and it gets expensive. So we understand that when we preach, organic and stuff like that, that's not meant to exclude anybody. We're all just called to do our best, which brings
Yeah.
us to the question of symptoms of kidney disease. Initial 90% of people must be having little or no symptoms because they don't know they have it. So are you progressed pretty far along when you first start noticing symptoms? What are
Usually.
those? And then what are the critical symptoms that somebody listening to this is like, this is serious?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going back to the fact that most people don't know they have it. 90% don't know they have it, because you can almost have 90% destroyed, right? Of when I say destroyed, compromised, you could be down to the last 15% and still feel nothing, right? Um, so and now also, before I go into the symptoms, I should highlight too, there are other things. So we talked about modifiable risk factors. Let's not leave off some medications. So NSAIDs, right? Ibuprofen, right? Aleve, naproxen. If you're on those things for a very long time, they can lead to kidney disease, right? This is because these medications decrease circulation or blood flow to the kidneys. Another medication that's infamous is proton pump inhibitors. So a lot of people use things like Prilosec or Omeprazole for acid reflux. If you are on a proton pump inhibitor or PPI, we want to use the smallest dose, just like NSAIDs, use the smallest dose for the shortest period of time, because long-term use can lead to chronic kidney disease. Um, Another thing I would throw in is probably autoimmune disorders. So any kind of autoimmune disease, because of the chronic state of inflammation, that can also lead to chronic kidney disease. But yeah, so now that hopefully we tie that with a bow, the symptoms, right? The symptoms, the first, again, the crazy thing is most people are not going to feel anything until it's too late. Can you imagine, Scott, how sad that is? Like to think you're healthy, and I've had this happen so many times, and all of a sudden, right, you're told that you got to start dialysis in a few months, that your
Man,
life is going to change. It's heavy. It's heavy, and it happens too often because the symptoms seem so benign. The symptoms seem like, you could chalk up fatigue to anything. I just feel tired all the time. I guess I'm just getting old, right? But fatigue, or I would say 70% of people who have symptoms, and if they have symptoms, it's going to be fatigue, low energy. And why that is, it makes sense, right? We go back to the function of the kidney. The kidney's one of the main functions of the kidney is to help stimulate the production of red blood cells. So many of us may be struggling with a low fatigue, a low energy because we are anemic, because we are not producing the hormone that will stimulate the brain, bones to produce red blood cells sufficient enough to carry out your activities. So you're walking around trying to do things with um, a low blood cell count. So fatigue, low energy usually is one of the first symptoms, right? Um, Another symptom that's really common is brain fog. Brain fog usually happens later on with later stages, but a lot of times people think, again, I'm getting old, right? That's why I'm getting forgetful. But if you're experiencing brain fog, that could be a symptom of kidney disease, because what happens, again, think about it, the toxins are building up in the blood, where they can end up also in the brain, right? So they call it uremic encephalopathy. Basically when toxins build up, backed up from the kidneys, end up in the brain. Brain fog is common. Another common symptom is itching. Um, and this is more common in later stages. Okay, so when you're looking at stage like 4 or 5, late stage 3, you might have itching, and we're not talking about just itching like once part of your body, but generalized itching. If you're having like body wide itching, and it's ongoing, it's not like it's just one day, it's ongoing and frequent. Yeah, it could be your kidneys, right? Another symptom would be muscle cramps and muscle weakness, right? This is also something that happens usually like stage 3 and onward. So middle to late stages, you might have muscle cramps. That's because of the electrolyte imbalance, right? Because your electrolytes are imbalanced, which can lead to muscle cramping and weakness. Um, Edema and shortness of breath is another symptom that happens. These definitely usually happen in later stages, like stage 4 or 5. You get so bad that your kidneys get so bad that they are failing to you're retaining fluid. You're failing to filter out fluid, right? And so now you have fluid backed up in your lungs. You're feeling short of breath, right? You have swelling in your feet and your hands. Your shoe doesn't fit like it used to. And you can imagine how all these symptoms, like, they all could be just chalked up to old age, right? Or you might think they're unrelated. And what's the most important thing? I don't want anyone to think, oh man, like I feel tired, I must have kidney disease. It's usually accumulation of things, right? It's usually not just one thing, but accumulation of things, right? But this is usually like a stepwise approach of how you see the symptoms happening. A frequent urination usually happens later on, when you're now like you're running to the bathroom at night, right? And one thing that can happen in any stage is actually interesting, is foamy urine. So when you go get up to pee, and you notice like a kind of frothy, foamy look to your urine, don't ignore that, right? Especially, or I should say, particularly if it's not going away. Um, don't just think, oh, it's nothing. That's a sign that you're spilling protein. So that's why it can happen at any stage. If you have foamy urine and it's consistently happening, this could be a sign of proteinuria, which is protein spilling into the urine instead of being held into the body where it belongs.
very, very educational and very practical. And speaking of practical, when we realize we may have a problem, or even if this is the same answer for reducing our risk factors and preventing, well, we don't use that word. We do not intend to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent anything, but
Okay.
I want to not get kidney disease. Or if I've got
Yeah.
it, I want to see if I can reverse it. What are some lifestyle interventions that perhaps mainstream medicine is not even helping people with, that you're aware of and teaching?
Absolutely. And before we go into that, I want to scare people a little bit, because a lot of times people, they think, those symptoms don't sound too deadly, right? But
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can
Give
lead
me
to
the
cardiac
critical
arrest.
symptoms.
Yeah, the critical symptoms. I mean, like think about it. If your body's not retaining essential minerals, like there's going to be some really serious imbalances. One of those is that you hold on to potassium, right? Potassium can lead hyperkalemia. Many patients who have chronic kidney disease end up with hyperkalemia. I think their numbers like almost 10% of them, which can lead to a fatal heart attack. Cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest. Your heart just stops. If that doesn't scare you enough. There's also the increased risk of heart attacks because now that your body's not converting vitamin D into active form, now you have bone leaking, sorry, calcium leaking from your bones, which can get caught up in blood vessels and stop and clog up your heart, leading to heart attack, right? Which is another scary symptom that can lead to death, right? So there's these annoying symptoms, but there's also the fatal ones. Of course, I know osteoporosis is not fun, but let's protect. If you want to protect your heart, protect your kidneys, right? And that's why it's very similar to diabetes and liver disease. The most people who have chronic kidney disease don't end up on dialysis. Do you know why, Scott? They don't end up on dialysis.
Why is that?
they die of a heart attack first.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're afraid of dialysis, fear that first. So now that I've properly scared you, let's answer the question: what can we do? What can I do to mitigate my risk and to slow the progression of kidney disease if I have it? Right. Number one is diet. I can't bypass that, but it's diet. And the diet that's been shown to be most friendly to kidney disease is a whole food plant-based diet. All right. This is not just my diet is better than yours. This is actually backed by science. There's now I love this, like, because this has not been true in the past, but now nephrologists and kidney associations, like kidney institutions that do research and publications on kidney are now acknowledging that a plant-based diet is not only kidney friendly but kidney protective. Okay, so, and there's multiple reasons for that. We could probably have a live just on how a plant-based diet can help your kidney disease and why. But just to highlight a few reasons, because I feel like we're more likely to do something if we understand why. So one of the reasons why a whole food plant-based diet is helpful for chronic kidney disease is that plant-based proteins are alkaline versus animal proteins being acidic. So when we have animal proteins in our diet, it's more likely that we put our body in an acidic state, which the kidneys do not like, right? Acidity or acidic state in our body damages our kidneys, right? There's also the issue of fat. Animal-based foods are higher in saturated fat. Saturated fat compromises our blood vessels. Within hours of eating a diet or a meal rich in saturated fat, your blood vessels are constricting, right? Which is compromising blood flow to your kidneys, right? Or we talk about also the fact that salt intake compromises our kidneys. And one of the sources that are highest in salt is not plant-based foods. It's unfortunately not just a processed junk in a salt shaker, but animal foods. Like, a lot of people are probably surprised to know that the number one source of salt in the adult diet doesn't come from the salt shaker. It actually comes from chicken, right? And the reason that is this is pretty interesting, Scott. Did you know that they inject salt water into chickens to increase their volume so they could sell more, sell
Believable.
higher? Yeah.
Franken
So here,
chickens. Man.
so you're getting an extra dose of chicken on top of the seasoning you're putting on your chicken.
Yeah.
Pizza, interesting, is the highest source of sodium for kids. So when you become whole food plant-based or plant forward and you're eliminating a lot of salt, you're eliminating saturated fat, you're eliminating protein, which is acidic. Gut damage, you're healing your gut. So that's number one. So you have a question? Yeah.
Lewis, is it the type of protein only, the acidic versus alkaline, or is it the quantity also that
Good
a
question.
meat-based diet is going to be delivering excess quantities of not just the fat but the protein?
Both. Both. So when you have a
Both.
animal protein diet, yeah, you're more likely to have more than you need. So just most people should write this down. If you want to calculate your protein needs, almost all society health institutions agree that what's needed is no more than, for the healthy adult, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. when you're eating animal protein, when you're eating a lot of animal proteins, it's very high to overshoot that mark and be at 1.5 or 2 times that 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. Of course, there are people who are bodybuilders and lifters, who are doing that on purpose. But many people are having too much protein coming from animal-based foods for all the reasons that we stated, but also because you're more likely to end up with an overload. And that again backs up and creates pressure inside that glomerular filtration unit we talked about. There's studies that show that high protein diets increase that pressure, which increases the damage to those kidneys. So
I
you
remember
want,
I remember T.
yeah,
Colin Campbell in Forks Over Knives. He's the author of the China study. I remember him
yeah,
saying, "You
yeah,
don't need to fret about am I getting enough protein." Like that was a big thing from the post World War II. Children in developing nations, third world countries, we call them. They're malnourished. We got to get them more protein. Get them more protein. And then I remember him saying, "For us, if you are not malnourished, if you are not calorie deficient, you're not protein deficient." I think the quote was something like, "It's virtually impossible to be protein deficient without being calorie deficient. So when you're not
exactly.
wasting away, you're getting the protein you need. So we don't have to be
Mhm.
even anxious about counting our grams."
Yep, yep. And Dr. Kimmel knew what he's talking about because he one of the things he did was go into like lower income societies and help them produce like a nutrition plan or that would fight malnourishment. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a problem in the modern world, in modern societies. Unfortunately, it's a big
yeah.
battle we got to fight because people don't want to believe it. So
I've
going
got
up
a question
forward,
while you're on the protein.
yeah.
Well, I know you got so much
Mhm.
more, but while we're on the protein, is it possible to be doing excess good quality protein in the form of plant proteins because you're eating refined powders, like vegan,
Yeah,
protein powder, supplements? Is that a problem
yeah.
for people who are eating whole plant foods but then supplementing a lot of excess protein?
Absolutely. So, like, if you're supplementing, you're likely going to over exceed what you need in protein. And I used to do it, man. I'm really avid in the gym. I love resistance training, and
Oh, I
and I
know.
used
I'm
to.
asking the guy.
Yeah, asking the guy, I used to down those protein shakes. So forget, give me some soy protein shake, man, and it's gone. But it was amazing when I started understanding, educating myself. I said, do I really need all this? And once I stopped it, I was still getting gains in the gym. I was still increasing strength and mass, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary. What you are doing, is putting yourself at risk of putting pressure on important organs like your kidney. You just don't. It's not needed.
How many push-ups can you do without stopping?
Man, I haven't done it in a while. I know I could probably do at least 80. Let me say
Oh
that
man,
at least 80.
you
Yeah.
said that so hesitantly, like, oh,
Because I
little
haven't done it in
bit.
a while,
I'm
and I yeah, at least 80. Yeah, but that's not much. I know guys could do a lot more than that. Yeah.
we're
But
getting
yes,
toward
yeah,
middle age,
diet is
so
important.
come on now.
Yeah, we're
I'm
getting.
going
I'm
to
a
give
little
you a
older.
pat on the back.
Give me- now that you ask, and you know what I gotta do. I gotta go try it once we're done the live. So yeah, I'll be able to update the
Yeah,
chat.
make a video for it. Make a video for
I can make
LSR.
a
We'll
video
see if
how
we can
many
get.
stop push-ups nonstop I can do. Hopefully, I can at
Well,
least do 80.
I remember hearing from Dr. Greger. I remember hearing Dr. Greger cite research that when you add additional protein in a muscle building process, you're trying to build muscle, and you add more protein than you would get
Yeah,
eating a regular
yeah,
diet. You
yeah.
only get 2% additional gains from all that excess protein that you're
Oh,
wasting
yeah,
your
yeah.
money on
Oh,
and harming your
yeah,
kidneys with. 2%?
yeah.
So you're
Not
still
much.
getting almost all the gains. You couldn't even notice that you had a drop
Yeah,
in gains when you got rid of the protein powder, huh?
yeah, yeah. I would agree. It's probably unnoticeable, right? Especially for the risk, it's not worth it.
Is two
But yeah,
percent
so
even statistically significant?
like yeah, I mean, can you see that? Can you experience, can you feel it? I doubt it. And that's why it's amazing now a lot of plant-based athletes are experiencing improvements in their performance. And it makes sense because a plant-based diet, where do you really get energy, right? You're getting immediate energy from blood flow, circulation, right? Oxygen delivery. That protein's not giving you energy during your workout, right? It helps build, of course, what's broken, but it's the output, right? And the work that you're able to do during the workout that leads you to do more so that you can, obviously see more results. So if you have better blood flow, which a whole food plant-based diet does, it improves your function, during exercise, your ability to lift, right, and get results. So I think it's better. It's not, it's better. Plant
Mhm.
protein is better.
So you
In
were
my
on the
humble
interventions.
yeah. So yeah, intervention. So diet is definitely number one. And we can go into supplements. And I think I have a document that we can kind of send people because I think it'll be easiest to get people. But yeah, sleep is
Absolutely. Just
huge.
email me, folks.
Uh,
Just email me,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
scottritzema@gmail.com. Lewis, give me that
yeah. We'll give
document.
you
I'll send it to
a
anybody
whole
that
list of
wants it.
supplements. Yeah. So sleep is going to be important. Sleep is essential. Studies show that those who don't get adequate sleep are, I think, at as high as 30% higher risk of developing chronic kidney disease. So don't sleep on sleep, right? 7 to 8 hours is what I usually recommend. I see recommended of sound sleep. Then exercise is another thing that's important for your kidneys. Not just aerobic exercise. I know we like to go on walks, but resistance training is important for your kidneys. Okay, so the combination of exercising, walking, a cardio plan, but also a weightlifting plan. Don't ignore that for your kidneys. Um, stress, stress is huge. Um, stress can compromise every body system. Right. There's a reason why stress kills is such a popular saying. It really does. So how do we fight stress? Number one is learning to trust in God, leaning on biblical principles like prayer and forgiveness, expressing gratitude. Mindfulness practice is also something that a lot of people have been talking about lately and studying. And this is a biblical principle, right? Learning to be still, right? To be present in the moment we're in instead of wandering in our mind from one problem to the next. Mindfulness practice has actually been shown to be just as effective as blood pressure medications, lowering our symptomatic nervous system response, decreasing anxiety and depression. So I mean that's a huge part of what we teach people to do in our program. And yeah, so we have diet, exercised, rest, and trust in God. Right? Just I think that's something that's going to be key to preventing chronic kidney disease.
That's beautiful. And I love God's methods. They
Real
apply
simple.
to every potential problem we can face. And they resolve or at least help us manage every problem that we've gotten into in this fallen world. And so,
Mhm.
listener, if you're facing something with your health, know that Jesus is right there for you. He is the great physician, and He's given laws of health that we can learn and apply, and we will see improvements. There is no doubting these methods. There's so much research behind it. I mean, even the secular world tries to come up with their ways of applying what we know as trust in God, where you're not stressed out, anxious, fearful, and, like you said, jumping from this to that fear in your mind, but you can be still and know that He is God. Not just emptying our minds, but filling it with Jesus and with the knowledge of His love for us. That's going to help our health big time. That's borne out in the research all over the place. So, okay, you mentioned you got a document on supplements, you hit the foods. Is there anything that we didn't cover about the kidneys that you're like, oh, we got to mention that before we close it out here today?
If I were to give any special mention, like the supplement list is pretty good. And what I like about the supplement list that I put together for our viewers is that what I like to do, I don't like to deal with. I know anecdotal information has its place, like when you give information based on someone's experience or your own experience. But I love evidence-based information. So the supplements that I chose in this document are things that scientifically have been proven to be effective through either observation or population studies. Okay, so you could trust in this shopping list for as a general guide. All these supplements, a lot of them, what they're doing is basically fighting inflammation and oxidative stress. That free radical damage that's equivalent to metal rusting, right? And even if you supplement with all these things, if 2 or 3 times a day, you are putting back foods that cause inflammation, that cause free radical damage, that cause oxidative stress, stop wasting your money. Okay. By and far, supplements do not replace a healthy diet. Okay. It's equivalent to slamming your knee with a hammer and wondering why the Tylenol is not working as you slam your knee with a hammer 3 times a day. Okay. How we eat determines whether or not we're slamming our knee with a hammer. or we're allowing our body to be nourished with antioxidant disease fighting chemicals, right? So by and far, diet is key. The supplements are what they're supposed to be supplementing that diet. There are some foods or that are key, I think, to highlight too. Flaxseed is also very, very good for blood pressure, for blood sugar, and for kidney protection because of its high in omega threes, which is protective to the kidneys for a lot of reasons. Hibiscus tea is another thing I would highlight for those of us who have high blood pressure and looking to come off medications. Just takes 1 or 2 cups a day of hibiscus tea, and it could be equivalent to your blood pressure medicine, so you can start throwing them away. Don't do it without your doctor's notification, though. You got to be on board with your doctor. But hibiscus tea, turmeric is also another thing that I highly recommend for fighting inflammation. Those are probably the big three.
And Lawrence, put that turmeric back up on the screen. You've been cycling through the ads there. LSR store
Yeah.
carries an awesome turmeric, or turmeric, or whatever. There are many
However you
pronunciations.
want to say
Potato,
it.
potato.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, turmeric essential oil. That's one thing. I thought I saw the powder, but we also got flaxseed over there at the LSR store, and lewisbertus.com.
Yeah.
Not
That's
difficult.
right.
We don't
Not
need a
difficult.
QR code for that. Can you guys actually type that in? I think you can do it. I love QR
Yes, I
codes. They're
think they could.
convenient. But yeah, get that old-fashioned keyboard out. Go to lewisbertus.com. Check this brother out and all the help he's doing for people. We appreciate him as a servant of God with a heart for people's health and well-being and the journey you've been through with your wife. Thank you for putting that in the bio so we can be reminded of that this is real for your family. This is not theoretical. And I know for every one of you out there listening, you're on a journey and you're with us and we're a family together and we're here to help. I'm Scott Ritzema signing off today with Louis Bertus. Next week, we're going to have Steve Wahlberg with a G at the end, not a T, to talk about how to grow micro sprouts. I think microgreens and sprouting, two separate things. Stay tuned to learn how you can grow sprouts in your home. And join us at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on July 30th for LSR Live. Thanks to our producer, Christian Digital Network. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Jeremy. You guys do a great job. From likes to lives changed. Follow them over there at that QR code on their YouTube channel, CDN, Christian Digital Network. We'll see you all next Wednesday. God bless you all.